Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you all doing this fine day? Me? Wow. As soon as I finished yesterday's show, my phone lit up like the Blackpool illuminations, and it really hasn't stopped since. Just this morning, I've spoken to reporters from both the Times and from the BBC about the issuing of almost £60 million worth of fines against 10 UK demolition firms that have been found guilty of involvement in bid rigging, price fixing, and collusion. I would remind you that there were some at the very upper echelons of the UK demolition establishment that said there was no case to answer, that it would all just blow over. And today's news was tomorrow's fish and chip paper. Well, more than 3 years later, it hasn't blown over. There clearly was a case to answer, and I think we'll all have to find something else in which to wrap our chips, as this is not going away anytime soon. Incidentally, keep an eye on other demolition-related publications, would you? And see if any of them cover the CMA pronouncement. Yeah. Unfortunately, it is unfortunate that the news of the £60 million fines landed the day before the NFDC was set to install its new president, John Lynch, which is happening pretty much now, I would imagine. Then again, John Lynch is a reformist, and maybe seeing some of its big names members hit with such hefty fines might just give the Federation the impetus to allow Lynch's new broom to sweep things truly clean. As I'm sure you can imagine, that news about the CMA fines, 60 million, or just short of £60 million, is going to overshadow the early part of today's show. But fear not, if you're here for the diggers, we have plenty of that too. Plus, there is a chance for you to win an exclusive Rockback baseball cap for your noggin, and there's also a chance, same prize, to win an exclusive Rockback water pouch to keep you hydrated now that spring is in the air. All you have to do, and I do have a thing for this, all you have to do is type the word Rockback into the chat. I knew I had one there somewhere. There you go, running across the bottom of the screen now. Where are we? There we go. Type the word Rockback, R-O-K-B-A-K, into the chat for your chance to win those exclusive prizes. Now, without further ado, let me roll the intro. Post the question of the day, which is not... I'll come back to that in a second. And let's get this show on the road, shall we? Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I'm your host, Mark Anthony. Yep, just realised I've put the question of the day in one place, but not in the other place that it needs to be. I'll come back to that in just a second, but it is related to the CMA findings. It is Friday, the 24th of March. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, massive bid rigging fines rock the UK demolition industry to its very core. Gryb Attachments is one to watch for the future, and Case shows off its latest excavators. Plus, Liebherr has unveiled yet another mini epic film. We'll be bringing that to you a bit later in the show. In fact, we're going to get to all of that in just a second. But first, let's see who among the rich and the shameless will be celebrating a birthday on this day of days. Happy birthday! And it's many happy returns to escape artist Harry Houdini. I think there's a few demolition companies wishing they possessed his skills this morning. It's also a happy birthday to silent movie star Fatty Arbuckle. If you're of a certain age, you'll remember. Happy birthday also to real-life bank robber and to the male half of the infamous Bonnie and Clyde crew, Clyde Barrow, to cartoonist Joseph Barbera, movie star Steve McQueen, and to businessman, TV star, and Tottenham fan Alan Sugar, to bassist Nick Lowe, fashion designer Tommy Hilfiger, professional wrestler The Undertaker, Big Bang Theory actor Jim Parsons, and to American Pie actress Alison Hannigan. Many happy returns to them, one and all. Now, I said that there was a question of the day. This is it. What is an appropriate punishment for bid rigging? As you will see in just a few moments, fines of £60 million or almost £60 million have been handed down to a bunch of 10 demolition firms in the UK. Is that punishment enough? Would you come up with something more creative? Let me know. Now, we need to start with a bit of this. As we no, I'm going to do this in a different order. Actually, I've just realised there really is only one demolition news story in town today, and it's this.
It ultimately took just over 3 years for the Competition and Markets Authority to make an infringement decision. 3 years of wading through the sewage that lies just beneath the surface of the UK demolition industry. 3 years of examining the soft underbelly of a sector that has fought long and hard for respectability, but which now finds its reputation tainted. During that time, the CMA conducted unannounced inspections of 15 business premises, interviewed 35 people, served over 120 notices requiring the provision of information or documents, and undertook a detailed review of emails, mobile phone communications, and financial records. When the announcement finally landed, it did so with the force of an asteroid. And like the asteroid that struck the Earth some 46 million years ago, the CMA asteroid could spark an ice age for the UK demolition sector. The CMA investigation has laid bare the inner workings of the UK demolition industry. It revealed to the world a sector in which unlawful activity is still seen as a path to profit. It's shown that even some of the biggest names in the global demolition industry have not risen above the down and dirty approach that most of us thought had been consigned to the industry's history books. And it has also shown that some would prefer to look the other way rather than actually confront the corruption staring them in the face. The level of fines levied against the 10 companies that were ultimately found guilty of wrongdoing are big. In 2 cases, they are massive. Brown & Mason has been fined £2.4 million, Cantillon £1.92 million, Clifford Devlin £423,000, DSM £1.4 million, Erith £17.5 million, John F. Hunt £5.6 million, Keltbray £16 million, McGee £3.7 million, Scudder £8.2 million, and Squibb Group £2 million. The long-running investigation culminated in fines totalling £59,334,957 for colluding on prices through illegal cartel agreements when submitting bids in competitive tenders for contracts. These bids were rigged, deceiving the customer that they were competitive when that was not the case. Each of the 10 firms was involved in at least one instance of bid rigging between January 2013 and June 2018, and all 10 firms were members of the National Federation of Demolition Contractors at the time of the offences. Bids were rigged by one or more of the firms agreeing to submit bids that were deliberately priced to lose the tender. This practice of cover bidding can result in customers paying higher prices or receiving lower quality services. In addition, the CMA found that 5 of the firms, on at least one occasion each, were involved in arrangements by which the designated losers of the contract were set to be compensated by the winner. Those firms were Brown & Mason, Cantillon, McGee, Scudder and Erith. The value of this compensation varied, but was higher than £500,000 in one instance. Some firms produced false invoices to hide this part of their illegal behaviour. The CMA found that instances of illegal collusion took place over a 5-year period and affected 19 contracts for demolition work in London, the South East and in the Midlands. The public and private sector contracts included the development of Bow Street Magistrates Court and Police Station, the Metropolitan Police Training Centre in Hendon, Selfridges in London, properties belonging to Oxford and Coventry universities, shopping centres in Reading and Taplow, a large office block on London's South Bank and other sites in central London. In total, the bid rigging impacted 19 individual contracts valued at around £150 million. Several of those contracts were funded from the public purse. Michael Grenfell, the CMA's Executive Director for Enforcement, said,
"The construction sector is key to our country's prosperity, so we want to see a competitive marketplace delivering value. innovation, and quality. Today's significant finds show that the CMA continues to crack down on illegal cartel behavior. It should serve as a clear warning. The CMA will not tolerate unlawful conduct which weakens competition and keeps prices up at the expense of businesses and taxpayers. We have also secured the disqualification of certain company directors involved. Company directors must understand that they have personal responsibility for ensuring that their companies comply with competition law, and that disqualification may follow if they fail to do so.
Those disqualified directors are David Darcy, formerly a director of Erith, who has been disqualified for a period of 5 years and 10 months. Michael Cantillon, formerly a director of Cantillon, who is disqualified for 7 years and 6 months. And Paul Klusky, a current director of Cantillon, who is now disqualified for 4 years and 6 months. Each of these directors benefited from reduced disqualification periods, having voluntarily agreed to the disqualification by way of undertakings to the CMA. This latest and long overdue announcement from the CMA largely closes this chapter of the story, even though Keltbray has said that it plans to appeal what it describes as an excessive fine. But this story is far from over. Given the level of fines and the scale of the bid rigging uncovered by the Competition and Markets Authority, could we now see criminal prosecutions of the individuals involved? And even if we don't, it's now clear to all those clients and contractors just where collusion took place and where they likely paid over the odds for demolition work that had actually been rigged. Could we now see those clients and contractors seeking to recoup the money that they overpaid? If they do, the 10 firms caught up in the scandal could face further financial losses that might well include interest and court costs. There is a twist in this tale, however. For one thing, 9 of the 10 companies that have been fined remain comfortably within the bosom of respectability with their NFDC membership intact. It was perhaps naive to expect the NFDC to kick out some of its biggest and best-known members, but the fact that the Federation has remained tight-lipped throughout the whole sorry business is to its detriment. By standing by the guilty 10, the NFDC has tainted the reputation of its entire membership. Then again, perhaps reputation counts for less these days. Even while these companies were under investigation and long after many of them had admitted their involvement, they continued to win work. Bizarrely, they will continue to do so. Modern demolition work, particularly that taking place within London or as part of a framework, requires contractors to prove they have the financial clout to see a project through to completion. The 10 companies handed fines by the CMA are among the firms with the greatest financial clout in the UK demolition industry. And so, some clients and some frameworks will have no choice but to employ the services of companies that have been proven to be unlawful because those companies have enough money in the bank, some of which was obtained by unlawful means. And all those UK demolition companies that were not part of the cartel and who thought they might now get a shot at the big time, I'm afraid you'll have to think again, because apparently that's not how the modern construction industry works.
Yeah. As we speak, the National Federation of Demolition Contractors is gathering in London for its annual general meeting, during which John Lynch is expected to be installed as the new president. There is, of course, the possibility that talk of the CMA could overshadow Lynch's big day. But I'm more hopeful than that. John Lynch has won the presidency by promising to modernise the NFDC. The level of fines handed down by the CMA yesterday should surely give him excuse me, I thought I was going to sneeze then. Should surely give him the mandate to bring about some real sweeping changes. I wish him every success in the new role. Now, if you would like to know the entire background to this story, don't forget that we have produced a dedicated podcast series on this very subject. Just go to your preferred podcast provider and search for the CMA Files. Alternatively, you can go over to our YouTube channel where you will find a playlist of all 8 episodes of the CMA Files. We're going to come back to this in a minute, but I do want to address this one from our friend Mick Norton. Morning, Mick. The CMA fines announced yesterday were, as you stated, massive, but that must be just the start and not the end of the matter. Criminal prosecutions must follow with the hope that custodial sentences will deter these activities. Directors found culpable should have life-term disqualification, and lastly, the NFDC must rid their membership of those found guilty of illegal activity by the CMA now. To be a fly on the wall today. It is going to be an interesting meeting. As I say, I do hope it doesn't overshadow John Lynch becoming the president, because he's worked long and very, very hard to get to that point. But I do hope that it is addressed. Obviously, some of the companies involved had, 8 out of the 10 had admitted responsibility and participation in that cartel operation. 2 have now been found guilty. Or the remaining 2 have now been found guilty. I realise apparently Grib Group may be consulting their lawyers about an appeal, and apparently Keltbray are planning to appeal as well. I think they'd set aside £6 million, and they've been fined £16 million. This one is going to run and run. So head on over to YouTube, search for the CMA files. You can watch all 8 episodes back to back if you are that way inclined. Now, don't forget, we are doing competition today. Prize draw for that and for that. That right there is a water pouch. You can hook it on your belt and you can wear that on your head. So with spring now just a day or 2 away officially, you'll be fully covered for that. Right, let me play one of these, shall I? I mentioned yesterday that I didn't manage to make it to the case stand while I was at ConExpo. That admission met with some consternation among the Breakfast Show audience, particularly with a certain Mr. Hatcher. Thankfully, the fine folks at Case have swung to my rescue.
Hello, this is Diego Butsky, and I'm the product manager for excavators and graders with Case Construction, and we're here at the West Hall at the Case Construction booth. And you can see right behind me here 3 brand new E-Series excavators that we're showcasing at the show. And I really want to talk to you about some of those features. We have brand new engine, brand new cab. We do have an awesome 10-inch display on these machines. And this baby here, the CX365 ESR, it is a short radius machine, special for those guys that are working in large projects. The overhang on this machine is just 11 inches over the side of the tracks. Can you imagine that? So come to the booth. Come talk to us. We're waiting for you here at the West Hall at the Case Construction booth. Our booth number is W4800. I'll see you in a minute.
I'm even more upset that I didn't make it to the case stand now. Another time, maybe. Now, before we press on, I want to say good morning to Richard Hunton, who has entered our... just while we're doing this, let me play some of this. Richard, I don't remember you being here before. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. You get the welcome confetti. You have entered our competition, but you haven't spelt rock back correctly, and our system won't allow it unless it's spelt right. So just to be clear, please re-enter. And the spelling is R-O-K-B-A-K, rock back, R-O-K-B-A-K. You can see it rolling across the foot of the screen literally as we speak. Now, I need to play a thing. What should I play? I reckon it's time for one of these. We'll be heading back to ConExpo in just a moment, but first we're going to check out the latest in a long line of mini epics from the team at Liebherr.
Like Grandpa once told me, man forges his own destiny. Deep in his eyes, I could see his own fire burning. While putting me on his lap, he explained, boy, to create something big, you need passion. I still remember his words. And then he said something special that changed my life. If you want to forge your own destiny, you must choose the right hammer.
Some of these Liebherr films are actually better quality than most of what you find on Netflix. Top job, Liebherr. Top job.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Now, I said earlier that we were heading back to ConExpo, and so here we are. We spent quite a bit of time with the attachment company Gryb International. In fact, we actually took part in the company's anniversary celebrations. Wasn't planned, but we did. They were as welcoming as you would expect from a Canadian company, and they also had some fantastic products on display, which we're bringing you in a future episode. But first, here's their founder, Remy, to tell you the Grib origin story.
We're proud to be Grib.
Cheers!
Cheers!
We started Grib. We decided, me and my father, just to buy an excavator and received the excavator the next day. And we were supposed to get the attachment next day too, but the lead times for the attachment was approximately 20 weeks. So we decided to manufacture this one by ourselves, and we start from there. So the first day, then we received the attachment 3 weeks after this. The dealers just show up to the place and ask us, where did you took these attachments? And we just tell them we build them. So the dealers say, no, tell me the truth. Where did you get this attachment? He said, really, we make these by ourselves. So he asked us if we can build these, and he said yes. It's the way that we manufacture stuff, and bucket can be one of the things that we can do. So start from there, start the business in 2007, and we sold approximately 300,000 the first year and grow from there. So we decided to manufacture the attachment with the external supplier, and in 2009 have a new building and grow from there. We had approximately in 2014 approximately 15 employees, 20 employees, and we have built a new building and make a first acquisition in 2015 with Magnet Quebec. Was a small business with one person, and we saw in the market that we need to have a new attachment to supply our customers. So start from there. In 2018 we acquired the business Bateman too, non-grapple product, and we had 2 our lines. In 2019 we had Winkle, 2020 we had Circle. So boom truck and some other product too, and we are there today. So we've been in 2015 approximately 15-20 employees, and now we are 1,000 employees with 8 facilities, and we much bigger business than we were before. So I had a business before Grib, and I was a manufacturer of some other product. But when I sold the first business, I decided to work as a kid with an excavator and play with toys, and we want to make something different. And but I saw that I was not a really good operator, so my life was to be a best at manufacturing stuff. So we want to be, we want to make a difference in the market. I think we are getting better and better at it, and for sure, if we want to expand in the next year with some other business too, offer more product to our customer and a better product in the market. So I think we're gonna get there because we are getting bigger. We can support each facility on each different brand, and not brand, but on like engineering side, sales side. As a bigger group, it's much easier to have people to help each other and share strengths. So we put a lot of effort on the sales side. So on our side, we try to develop this with OEM, develop with dealers, and also with the customer base too. So we work pretty hard on that side. Technology, as you said, is becoming bigger and bigger in that market, and so we acquired E-Track, a company based in Quebec City. So we want to develop also our product line to the technology because it's going to be the future. As we know, our kids are with an iPhone and cell phone and all of that stuff, so we have to go that way also. So with E-Track, it's going to be a huge advantage to develop our product in the technology side. Innovation is still a key driver for Grib because we want to offer the best product for our customers, so we invest a lot per year. We have approximately 60 engineers working in each business to improve all the product, to make sure we can supply them with the right product and improving things. So it's something really important for us, for sure. Our goal is it's ambitious and it drives our people, our employees also, and the customer base also that we have. So having them that we can expand every year, and they don't know where it's gonna end. So it's the same for us too. We don't know where it's gonna end, but we're gonna go as far as we can.
Interesting story. Like Kinsoffer and like Shearcore as well, both of whom were at ConExpo, Gryb is an attachment specialist that's grown through some very strategic acquisitions. You might not know them now, but trust me, I think in the future you will. And as Jim Turner has just said, proper folk, they had a problem and they solved it. Best of luck to them. That's the sort of people that make great manufacturers. We'll be bringing you more from Gryb in the future, but things like integrated magnets on some of their attachments make a big difference, and it's all customer driven. It's not Grib sat behind a desk in an ivory tower coming up with ideas that nobody wants. It's customers saying, could you possibly, and Grib going away and doing precisely that. A company to watch. Yeah, keep an eye on them.
Sorry to interrupt the guy with the funny glasses, but if you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button as it helps our channel. Or better still, share this video with a friend or a colleague. Thank you. Right. Back to Beardy.
Right, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. But first, I have a small task to perform. We need to find out who has won our combination, which is it's a baseball cap, which you can see there, and it's also this water pouch as well. If you haven't already entered, just type Rockback, R-O-K-B-A-K into the chat. I'll give you a couple more seconds to do that, just to make sure we get everybody through the door. Let's have a look. What have we got at the moment? We've got 9. We need one more to make it a nice round 10. If anybody out there is looking for a baseball cap and a water pouch, please type it now. Looks like we've got all the entries we're going to get. So let me press the button and roll to see who has walked away with the prizes. Dan Cullen. Congratulations, Dan. Well deserved. I know you like a baseball cap, so you are now the proud owner of... Let me get rid of that so you can see exactly what it is. There you are, proud owner of a Rockback baseball cap, hauled all the way back from ConExpo by myself, and also one of those, which is, as you can see, a water pouch. Hook it on your belt. You never need to be dehydrated. You can thank me later, Dan. Congratulations on that, my friend. Remind me of your address, and I will get that in the post for you today. It doesn't make any difference, but I have just noticed that I think Dan took 2 or 3 attempts to actually enter. So it makes no difference. It only takes 1 entry per person, but he won it in the end. So as I was saying, it is the end of the day. It is the end of the show. It is the end of the week as well. So I'm going to roll the outro in just a second. If you can't stick around, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Have a great day. Have a great weekend as well. And thanks for watching. But if you do have the time and the inclination, please stick around after this for the Craic, during which my guess is we'll probably be talking about CMA fines, among many other things. I'll see you in just a second. Need a bit more volume on that, I think. Hope that's okay for everyone. How are we all doing this fine day? Congratulations again, Dan. I will get those in the post if you remind me of your address, sir. That would be very... I'd like to get down to the post office by lunchtime, so if you can do that fairly soon, I'd be very, very grateful to you. Who's in the chat? Before we actually get to the main task at hand, Ken Hatcher was first off the mark this morning. Good morning, Ken. Looks like I'm coming to Welsh Wales myself in the not too distant future. I'm going to Swansea. I haven't got a date fixed for it yet, but I am going to Swansea. I don't know if that takes me anywhere near your front door, Ken, but I should be in Welsh Wales at some point in the not too distant future. Gary Muirhead was second off the mark, as he so often is. Morning, Mark. Morning, guys. Happy Friday, everyone. Yeah, and a happy Friday to you as well, Gary. Even though I've only done a proper 2-day week this week, really glad it's Friday. I'm still shaking off the after effects. I don't know how Steve and Ed are getting on back at work, but I'm finding it tough. Still not sleeping, and I don't know what the hell happened with my body clock. Couldn't stay asleep in Vegas, can't get to sleep in the UK. What the hell's that all about? My mate Mark Whiting is in the house as well. Morning, Mark. Thank you very much indeed for being here. There he is. Steve Williamson is in the house. I don't know. I'm assuming he's behind the levers at the moment. Mick Norton is here as well. Good morning, Mick. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We'll be getting back to one of your comments in just a second. Rattling through, who else have we got here? Jim Turner. Morning, Jim. Thank you very much indeed for being here. There's yesterday's prize winner as well. Jeff Pinion, Mr. Brock himself. Good morning, Mark. And all, thank you very much indeed for that. Plenty of entries for the rock back competition. And then we come to Mick Norton's comment, which reads: the CMA fines announced yesterday were, as you stated, massive, but that must be just the start and not the end of the matter. It was quite interesting. I will come back to the comment in just a second, Mick. It was interesting. I recorded the podcast yesterday, the 8th episode in the CMA Files series that we've been running for the last couple of years. And we've basically updated it every time there's a significant update. And at no point yesterday while I was recording did I think, well, that's the final episode. I think there's at least one more, possibly 2 more to come. And I don't know if anybody else is hearing the same, but I'm also hearing that the CMA has not quite finished its investigations into the demolition industry. I'm hearing very strong rumours that they are looking north of the border. Don't know how true that is, but I'm hearing rumours. So, back to Mick Norton's comment. Criminal prosecutions must follow with the hope that custodial sentences will deter these activities. Directors found culpable should have life-term disqualification. And lastly, the NFDC must rid their membership of those found guilty of illegal activity by the CMA now. Do I think criminal or custodial sentences? You're probably right. This is where I find it hard separating work with not work, because some of the people and the companies that have been caught up in all of this are people that I have enormous respect for. Do I want to see them go to prison? Not really. I'd much rather they didn't. But 150 million quid's worth of contracts were queered by this cartel operation, and 60 million pound in fines. I think for some of the companies involved, those fines will be problematic in a fairly big way. For others, they may just find the money down the back of the sofa. So yeah, it is a tough one. As for the NFTC kicking out those that have been found guilty, I can't see it now. I think the NFTC had the opportunity when all of this first broke, and you know, stones, glass houses. Does anybody really want to put their head above the parapet on this? As I've said, it is the NFTC AGM right now, taking place in London. I'm not entirely sure exactly what time it was due to kick off, and I'm not entirely sure what time John Lynch is scheduled to get the chains of office. If he were to stand up today, and his first pronouncement were to be, I've looked at this CMA thing, we've seen the level of fines. As of this moment in time, at immediate effect, I am going to eject all of those companies that have been found guilty from NFTC membership, either permanently or for a specific time. I think there would be, I think some in the audience would welcome it. I think it would look good from a PR perspective. I think it would also set the stall out for John Lynch's presidency. But if you take out the likes of Erith and Keltbray and McGee and Squibb and DSM, you are taking out some of the biggest, and in demolition terms, the best of the NFDC. I honestly can't see it happening. I think the ship on that has sailed, and there was an opportunity. I think what I find tougher to deal with is the fact that the NFDC, apart from a very trite statement about a year ago, they have offered nothing. And bizarrely, that statement, I don't know if anybody remembers it, I will dig it out one of these days, but it basically said that as a result of this investigation, they were putting in place measures that would change the way in which they approach these things in the future. So if the CMA were to find, let's say, a Scottish contractor guilty of collusion or a cartel operation in the next 6 months, could they be then kicked out? Would that not be unfair? 10 companies have already been found guilty and they didn't get so much of as a slap on the wrist, but going forward, if you are found guilty, you get kicked out. I can't see it personally. Mick Norton, my question of the day, which what's the technical term? Yes, I ballsed it up. My question of the day was, what is an appropriate punishment for collusion and bid rigging? Mick Norton suggests criminal prosecution and custodial sentences. Jim Turner reckons the fine, which they've already got, and increased tax for the next 10 years. Increased tax for the next 10 years could spell the end for those companies, I would guess. Why isn't that playing? Come on now, there we are. Gary Muirhead says, how many of the people who awarded the bids are now sitting there worried that they could be asked to explain themselves, and how many actually received brown envelopes? Funnily enough, that's kind of the flip side of this, because this cartel operation was there effectively to con the those awarding the bids. I don't know the full details. I'm sure there are court papers that show exactly how the system worked, but by just doing the simple maths, I think they agreed among themselves that, you know, several of one or more would price the project so high that they didn't win the job, and then somebody would win it at a lower cost, but which was still above market value, and then in some instances they shared the proceeds, having won that project above budget. So the difference between the bid price and the actual agreed price, as it were. But brown, you're not the first person, and you won't be the last to mention brown envelopes. Is that taking place at client level? I was talking to somebody last week, and was it last week? Must have been the week before, because I think I was still in the UK at the time. As you can tell, my body clock really is all over the shop. And they were saying, back in the day, and literally up until the present day, there are certain projects you bid for and you are told very, very early doors, you're not going to win this. You could put together the very, very best bid. It might be the most technically perfect. It might be the most cost effective, but you are not destined to win it for one reason or another. Mad how corrupt the big companies are. Brown envelope, says Ken Hatcher. Yeah, you're dead right. Ed Butler is in the house. Morning, Ed. Good to see you here in the UK. I hope you had a good trip back from the US. Hope your body clock is rather better adjusted than mine. Ken Hatcher says, nice to see a bit of Case. Ken, that was specifically for you. After failing to go and find the fine folks at Case during ConExpo, I thought I'd best go and dig out their latest news to bring specifically to you. There is our new friend Richard Hunton, who sadly didn't win. The autocorrect on his spelling probably damaged his chances. Didn't win this time, but don't worry, you can't see it from here, but there is a heap of other prizes. I know we've got Devilon hats and Alu hats and Alu models and various other bits and pieces, which we'll be rolling out as prizes during next week as well. So be sure to tune in for that. Where are we? The Liebherr video. Wow, that's a hell of a video. Yeah, it really is. You'd think being really, really good at making really, really good equipment would be enough for one company. Nope, turns out they want to make really, really good videos as well. And boy, oh boy, do they ever do that. Ed Butler is also a fan. Great video, it really is. I could sit there and watch the folks at Liebherr and their videos for hours on end. In fact, I often do. Our friend Remy at Gryb Attachments or Gryb International sounds like Tony Beats, who I know Steve Williamson met. Tony Beats apparently is part of the Gold Rush show, I think. Never watched it. Don't know what Tony Beats sounds like. I don't even know where it's set. Is it set in French-speaking Canada? I don't know. If that's the case, that would probably explain why they do sound similar. Let's have a look. Jim Turner, proper folk. They had a problem and they solved it. Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. And as I say, having hung out with them for a good few hours, that is very much their ethos. A customer will come to them. They're big enough. I mean, they've got 1,000 employees, so they are big enough to manufacture at a grand scale, but they're also still small enough and committed enough that if a customer comes to them and says, I'd like one of these, but I'd like it with something else, they're small enough to do that. You'll be seeing some of their products on this show in the very near future. In my opinion on the fines, they should have all been fined equally. Not sure that is necessarily a good idea because, I'm not entirely sure how the fines were set. Both Erith and Keltbray are among the biggest, are probably the two biggest firms in the demolition sphere here in the UK. So were the fines related to turnover? Not sure. Were they related to level of involvement? Not sure. But to fine them all equally, for all I know, some of them may have been at it over a period of the full 5 years. Some of them might have only done it once. Would it be unfair? I don't know. It's still a criminal activity, but yeah. Steve Williams says, I'm still shattered. Eating pattern is all wrong. Yeah, you and me both. You and me both. I seem to be hungry at all the wrong times. We have a returning newcomer. I wish I knew how to pronounce your name, but you're back. I know you were here yesterday. Good day. Whereabouts are you in the world? I'm trying to figure it out from the spelling of that name, but I've got nothing. Let me know where you're watching from, but thank you very much indeed for being here. Let's have a look. Steve Williamson says, flight got back on Tuesday about 10 p.m. Back to work next day. You're a better man than me. You really are. I literally got off the plane and my original plan was to take the Monday off and come back on Tuesday. Tuesday rolled around and I was still like death warmed up. So I stayed away until I'd been to Liverpool and back. Ed Butler, unbelievably, I felt pretty good this week, but this morning I'm feeling tired. I don't know what you're made of, Ed, but you're a stronger man than I. The day back in work, I was hand digging for water services. Big shock to the system. Just being sat here is a shock to my system. When cartels misappropriate funding from the public purse by illegal rigging, there can be no mitigating circumstances in their defence. You're right. No, you're absolutely right. And as I say, this is where I struggle. Having been in and around the demolition industry for the past 30 plus years, you do make friends along the way. You do make acquaintances along the way. You do learn to admire and respect certain people. And then when they are revealed to be something other than that which you believed, it's hard to let go of that feeling. And I actually mentioned it. I can't remember which episode, but I did actually mention this in the CMA Files, one of the podcast shows. I think we are all aware of what Michael Jackson was alleged to have done. Not going to dwell on that. But Off the Wall, Thriller, still bloody good albums. Could I bring myself to stop listening to Michael Jackson? Probably not. And in many ways, I think the same applies here. And it's a hard one. It is a hard one. I had a long time thinking about this yesterday after I'd recorded that piece earlier. I had a long time thinking about it. And despite all of this, there are still certain people that have found themselves mired in all of this. They still do some bloody good demolition. They may have won that demolition through unlawful means. I think, that it's there in black and white, but they do some bloody good demolition. But when it comes to legal matters, as Mick Norton's rightly said there is no grey. You're in the right or you're in the wrong. Simple as. There is no mitigating circumstances whatsoever. Oh, this is nothing new, says Jim Turner. One firm can't do everything at once, so the big boys know they won't miss out on anything. You just take it in turns with contracts between them. The machinery dealers do it at the auction so they don't bid against each other. Yeah, and it's been very interesting to me, having followed this story. You can actually sign up for alerts from the Competition and Markets Authority, which obviously I've done, because I wanted to be fully abreast of every change in this instance. But when you sign up for alerts, you get alerts on everything, and it's alerts on things like football clubs overcharging or basically forming a cartel to drive up the price of football shirts, for example, replica shirts. I'm just going to answer this. You are rich. I'm really not. Wish I was, but I'm not. No, far from it. So yes, there was. I've been following that. There was something between Meta, the owners of Facebook, and Google. Suggestions of cartel type operations with those companies as well, and obviously we've had plenty of those in the past. So obviously this show is about construction and demolition. Obviously I have my links with demolition, so obviously that is precisely why I'm following this. But don't for one moment believe that demolition is unique in its collusion, because it most certainly isn't. In actual fact, this is the third or the fourth prosecution of this nature that is related to construction. I think there was some lead roofing manufacturers, were prosecuted a year or two ago. There were some people making concrete pipes. I think they got done as well. And yeah, there's plenty of it about. None of which excuses what's happened in demolition, but please don't think that demolition is in any way unique, because it most certainly isn't. Mick Norton says CMA can impose fines of up to 10% of the average turnover for the last 3 preceding financial years, or in the case of cartels, up to 3 times the profits for each year during which the cartel subsisted. Thank you for the clarification, which, if that is the case, I would imagine the profits, or both the profits and the turnover of Keltbray and Erith would have been by far the biggest, and that is why they've got the biggest fines, 16 and 17.5 million pounds respectively. Mick Norton goes on to say, with its new powers, the CMA will be able for the first time to decide that a firm has breached consumer protection law and to levy significant fines of up to 10% of global turnover for such breaches. Ouch. Ouch. But as the old adage goes, if you can't do the time, then don't do the crime. Do I think that this is going to act as a deterrent? Not really. No, not really. I think it might make some people a little more creative in how they do divvy up contracts among themselves, but I don't actually think this is going to stop it, even though those fines, as I say, are very, very hefty indeed. But no, and unfortunately, I think some of this is pretty much ingrained. I'm not naive. I realise that, you know, in all walks of business, and particularly in a pretty rough and ready business like Demolition, I realise that not everything is on the straight and narrow. More than accept that. I wasn't shocked when the CMA announced that it was running an investigation. It was surprised, but I wasn't shocked. What has surprised me perhaps even more than that is, obviously, it's been a talking point in the industry for about 3 years now, and nobody is shocked. In fact, the most common response I get is, yeah, we see it all the time. There are a good few out there that have stood their ground. Richard Dolman at AR Demolition, being most notable among them, has made himself rather unpopular by refusing to play ball in this sort of thing. And I'm sure there are others just like him. He just does so publicly. Do I think that this is going to be a new chapter? I would like to think so. As I said, the timing, despite the fact that it could cast a shadow over his big day, the timing of this could actually prove telling, I think, for the NFDC. I think, in bearing in mind all that's just happened, bearing in mind that the NFDC is currently seeking a replacement CEO, Howard Button is headed out the door, bearing in mind we have a new president and we've also had these fines, now would be the perfect opportunity for a thorough reform, to lead from the front, and to get the NFDC back to what it used to do in the past, to actually lead. If I am ever asked, I doubt that I will be, but if I'm ever asked, I believe the NFDC has lost its way on a number of things. I think on a number of occasions, presidents have basically used their presidency to feather their own nest and things like that. I think they've spent money unwisely. I think they have been very badly advised on how they've handled things like Didcot, the spate of scaffold collapses, and now the CMA investigation. I think all of that. But if I had one major criticism of the NFDC, it would be that where it was once a leader, it is now a follower. It just hitches its wagon to every passing bandwagon. Mental health awareness, yes, we'll get involved in that. Women in construction, yes, count us in. The NFDC of old used to set the agenda; it didn't follow it, and I would like nothing more than to see John Lynch take the federation back to the days when it was a leader. I'll say it. I've said it a million times, probably exaggerating slightly, but I've said it a lot, and I'll say it one more time. The UK demolition industry needs a trade association. It needs a voice. It just doesn't need the one that it's got right now. Maybe if he can get them backing from the membership, maybe John Lynch can get us back to where we need to be. Let's have a look. Yams, have you ever looked at demolition built of the buildings built after the World Fair in 19? No, No, I haven't. I've been I've been around a long while, but I no, I haven't. Let's have a look. Dan Cullen says, "Have a great day, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. Can't wait till Monday." Good grief, sir. Good grief. Gary Muirhead has also said, "Have a good weekend, guys. See you all Monday." Yeah, we will see you all on Monday. Dan, if you're still here, please don't forget to fire me over your address. And what is this? CMA guidance on penalties. If anyone would like to know exactly how those penalties were arrived at, Mick Norton has just provided the link. Go take a look. I'm going to look that up after the show. I think that die is cast. I think it now comes down to possibly prosecutions and possibly clients that have overpaid, potentially going back after the to recoup the funds that they've overpaid. Watch this space. As I say, I don't believe that we've produced the final chapter of the CMA files by a long shot, but you can listen to the entire series. Go to your preferred podcast provider, search for the CMA files. You'll find it there. Easier still, just head on over to YouTube. Go to the Demolition News YouTube channel. There is a playlist, a dedicated playlist called the CMA Files. You can listen to the whole thing there. Ed Butler says, "Have a good weekend, everyone. Stay safe," which is a perfect note to end on. Thanks for that, Ed. You stay safe too, my friend. I will see you all again on Monday. Till then, as Ed says, stay safe. Look after yourselves. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you all very, very soon indeed. All the best.